Selecting text worth reading. These are the three key advances that are prompted by our standards: text complexity, which we've already said what that is, evidence, and building knowledge. And as I said, the activity we're about to do will build on the text complexity. These are the objectives of what we'll be doing. I will not take the time to read it for you. I'm going to give you a few minutes to read it.
We can't see it in the back.
Okay, well, I'm going to read it to you. Understand Thank you for letting me know. Understand the research base that explains the importance of text complexity to students' preparedness. Understand the staircase of complexity and the central role it plays in the CCR standards for adult education. Understand the features that make text complex. Understand how careful consideration of text can yield insights for instruction and deeper understanding of what it takes to comprehend a text.
Thank you.
And the rationale for focusing on text complexity. The complexity of text that students can read and is the greatest predictor of success in college. And that was research done by ACT study. The gap between the complexity of college and high school text is huge. Remember I told you it's about a 4-year gap in there. Too many students are reading at too low a level. Fewer than 50% of graduates can read sufficiently complex text. The implications of focusing on complex instruction. The CCR standards have raised the bar for what students should read and understand at each level. Passages should be of high quality so they are worthy of close reading. CCR-aligned questions cannot be asked about passages lacking complexity and fully developed ideas. What is complex text exactly? Complex sentences, uncommon vocabulary, lack of words, sentences, or paragraphs that review or pull things together for the student, lengthy paragraphs, text structure that is less narrative and/or mixed structures. Continue is subtle and/or frequent transitions, multiple and/or subtle themes and purposes, dense information, unfamiliar settings, topics, and events, and lack of repetition, overlap, or similarity in words and sentences. All of this is what causes a particular text to be what they consider complex. And this is what our students really and truly don't grasp when they're reading, because when they come to a word they don't know, they're not going to use context clues, they're not going to check the dictionary thesaurus, they're just going to keep going, and they're going to miss the understanding of what's being said. Which two of these factors cause students the most difficulty? Now I'm going to read them, but I'm going to ask you which ones you think. Which one causes students most difficulty? Complex sentences, uncommon vocabulary, lack of words, sentences, or paragraphs that review or pull things together for students, lengthy paragraphs, text structure that is less narrative and/or mixed structures. So give me a few hands. What you? These are all of the above. I'm hearing uncommon paragraphs, really and truly all of them, but uncommon paragraphs and lengthy paragraphs and uncommon words, because once they see how thick and how long it is, they shut down. And the uncommon words, like I said, they just ride over them. Go ahead. Which text complexity is essential? Academic vocabulary can be learned only from complex text. Mature language skills needed for success can be gained only by working with demanding materials. Students won't be prepared by reading simplified texts that have restricted, limited, and/or thin meaning. There is no evidence that struggling readers can catch up by simply increasing the complexity of simpler texts. Anybody? Students won't be prepared by reading simplified texts that have restricted, limited, and/or thin meaning. Go ahead.
So it's all of them really. And all of them are true. The academic vocabulary can be learned only from complex text. So that's what the standards are telling us, to increase the text so they can learn the vocabulary. And so it was really all of them.
Okay. Now we're going to do some hands-on work. This unit that we're going to work with introduces, as I said, text complexity. And there has been research that indicates that there is a link between the ability to read complex text and significant gains in reading proficiency, which really make an exposure to complex text a key component to college and career readiness. Today, I just want to share some information with you before we get started. The average student, it says, reading skills are roughly 4 grades, remember the 4 grades below where they need to be to have success in college, career, the real world, as we say. And research also says that being able to not understand complex text really and truly provides the student for long-term negative effects. That's why you have so much joblessness. That's why you have so much dropping out of school. Once it gets to an area that they can't focus or they can't maintain, they drop out, and then they're in those low-paying jobs. And for those of you who don't know, I come from a correctional background, and then they end up with me. So that's why we need to try to make sure that we give them everything they need to be prepared to make it in this life that we live in. I'm going to pass out. We're going to pass out an activity for you. It's a reading activity. Everybody at the table needs to read it. After you complete it, after you've done reading it, I'd like for you to work in, y'all already what they call small groups, but maybe two people per, two people at your table, work together. And there are some things that I want you to ask yourself as you're after you've done reading this. And if I need to go over these again, just let me know. First of all, I want you to ask yourself, is the question worth asking? When you read it, is it worth reading? Does it provide the students with the opportunity to explore what they have learned from the text? Does it ask students to include evidence from, I'm reading the wrong directions? I was wondering what this was. I'm reading the wrong directions, y'all. I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. Okay, let me get the right instructions to y'all. That is people all have the same. What about that? That's worth reading, right? Bear with me. Okay, so while we get the directions, you all can start reading. Just go ahead and start reading the material.
It's online. It's readtheory.org. It's an online reading assessment that does it at their level. So you put in and you can detect complexity of where they are. And you can do it if you're really reading the and then there's another one, if you're working on just plain old reading, it's called literary. And the students read to the computer. And it's like Zibbles, the computer scores it for you and gives you the correct words. But they gotta have access, the computer's gotta have access to it. But my math will look like the computer's in the same. So I just have the students read to the paper and I show This is trial and error.
Trial and error. Like they do.
So this is my students. This is real theory. And then I can go up into and it yields. This one, the nine is where they test their initial test. So this one you can see she's in the 7th grade level. Her classwork is in the 6th grade level, so she's not working up to where she
Okay, I take it everybody's had a chance to read it. The excerpt from Words to Live By. Everybody had a chance to read it? Okay. You have been passed out a qualitative analysis of this text, a worksheet. You should see going down the left-hand side categories, structure, language clarity and conventions, knowledge demands, purpose, and overall placement. In the middle section, you are to make notes as you talk among yourselves, make notes for each one of those categories. And then off to the right, it will ask the question, how complex is this level? So you're going to say slightly complex, moderately complex, very complex, exceedingly complex. Any questions? Go for it. Do we need to do one together? I'm hearing over here, what is structure? Let's do structure together. If you had to put something in your notes for structure, let me hear what you say first, and then we'll go over what we need to do. Okay, I hear the way something is set up. What would you put if you had to put something without my help? Progression. Who? Organization. What else? What else? You're responding as a student. The question was asked, are you responding to this as a student or the instructor as a student? Now you know the terminology that they've used in this facilitator guide is going to be, college level. So therefore, make sure your students understand what you're asking them to do when you put this in front of them. Okay? Now let me tell you what our dear answer sheet says. This form, The form of this piece is fairly straightforward. An opening statement followed by a question that is answered by considering quotes and then offering a brief chronology. I heard progression somewhere that ties into that. And the block quote might throw off some readers, but overall, the structure of the explication, I can't read, y'all, I'm sorry. But the overall, the structure of the explication is how can I read that? Is direct and clear. So the structure is straightforward. It is written in a brief chronological way. And they said that block quote in the middle might throw them off a little bit, but it is direct and clear. That would be suggestions of things you put in your structure. Okay? Then let me ask you this. How complex is this level? What do you think? You're a student now. Don't give me these PhDs and master's degrees I got in this room. It is very complex. It is very complex. Very complex is your answer. From a student's point of view,
It is ninth grade. So can we say something for the...
1 minute, listen up, listen up.
Okay, so we're getting a lot of questions like, do we expect the students to really do this? Yes, this is what they are expected to do. However, earlier we talked about, this is a framework, so you may have to start out with what? Some materials that's not as complex,
Right.
but as they learn, you need to get them to this level. If you look up at the top, it'll tell you that this is a 9th grade. So this is at least 9th grade work. And our students are not at 9th grade at the present time, but we do expect them at some point in time to get here.
So therefore, you can make sure that you have, if you're working with the 6th grade level student, you pull reading material that's on the 6th grade level and use the same framework to go through the activity with them.
Time of, let's go say,
That's grade level. I know.
Okay, everybody pay attention. Everybody pay attention. This is her first class. Now she's being an educator. She wants everything right now. Tell me what you say.
About this, I said for me, the problem with determining whether it was slightly complex, all up to exceedingly complex, is where's the rubric? How do I determine that based on what I'm reading? And I know I'm not the only one that thought it. I'm the only person that verbalized it.
But I want to thank her for bringing it out. We do have that information. We do have that information, and you will receive it in your packet. They give you a breakdown to determine whether it's complete. I think, like some people said, that it is moderate or slightly, and that's because we are educators. So for us, but when we say put yourself in the shoes of a student, this is complex material for a student. So you'll get the packet and you'll get the training. You'll have it.
So is that language that she read about straightforward, chronological order, is that from the student's rendering or from ours? Because to me to say it's straightforward, but and then say it's very complex.
What our table said was it depended on who's actually reading. Yeah. Someone else said, if it's not about, that was the first determination. To say, okay, is this complex? It would depend on the complex. But it's not that hard.
So it was not for us in the training, but it is for our students. So that's why we said if you put yourself in the training side of a student, because you think about it, put your students that's in maybe 1st through 6th grade level. So if you think about a 1st reading this information, you go into what? Shutdown mode. You pass this type of material out to me and I'm on the first grade level, I put it down. That's why we say you can modify the materials. I actually go to websites and I look up kindergarten reading. You can modify the materials and use this framework. Don't forget about earlier when we talked about framework. Use this framework, but start off with some first grade material work. Then increase, and they should be increasing, then get you some second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. And we had a student in our program for 16 years. Now he ended up getting his GED, but he worked. He was a diligent student. He was faithful coming. But every year, we had to just work with him one level. When they said you get one game per year, for 16 years, he did one game per year. And to that last year, when we told him the GED test was getting ready to change. And then he actually came in, extra time worried me to death. He was standing there when I got from lunch. He was standing there when I came in the morning, but he ended up having the GED test. So we can work them through this framework. We can work through. But it is 9th grade level, so when you're looking at it, you're saying, no, it's not that complex. It's not. But when you remove yourself out of teacher mode, it is. It is. So, I'll go back to share.
One thing that was just pointed out to me, you're going to use this reading activity with 2 more activities. So if you looked at the top and you saw that it said something about creating high quality writing prompts, please don't let that jar your memory on what you're trying to do here. Right here we're just trying to figure out if this is a particular text that says text worth reading and the complexity level of it. That's all we need to do with this. The reason that may say creating high quality writing prompts, because you're going to use the same reading activity with 2 more activities this afternoon. So that may have been one of the mix-ups there. And in looking at this particular activity, we said that we needed to look at and this is what I was told I did not read when I messed up on the directions, and I didn't come back and give you the right directions. You're to read the excerpt, done that. Then you're going to look at the qualitative analysis rubrics, which is what you have there. And for each category, structure, language, clarity, conventions, knowledge, demands, and purposes, provide in that blank space why you think the text is not especially challenging in that category. Share your insights with your partners. Share your evidence with other participants at your table and discuss points of agreement or disagreement. Rather than discussing the rating itself, focus on the evidence that comes from the text that supports the rating. What did the qualitative rubrics? What did you read in the text that made you think about it that way? Can you point out specific examples? And why does, and you refer to specific examples, why does it seem to be more moderately complex than very complex? Does that help? No, you still look confused.
Probably because some of us do not have the actual rubric. We're working with a worksheet and a sample reading, but the actual rubric, I just happen to have it because I printed it out, but that's what everybody is basically probably needing to see, the rubric, what we're looking for.
Okay. When we give out all the let me see what you're saying. I did. The rubrics is on its way, okay?
Under the resources on that
Right. That's unit 2 I'm on. Oh, yeah, unit 2. Right, that second one. Scroll with me, I found it.
Guideline?
That's what a young lady got from the December to do today.
You may not get back.
It's gotta wait for it to catch up.
Qualitative, yes.
5. That's the chart.
Right there. Put that up.
Just that one page? Yeah, because there's 2 pages. 2 pages. But it's like it breaks it down in like each one. So.
Where did you get your lunch order?
I already had one. They provided me lunch.
Okay.
So thanks though. I got it.
You just start making some changes in case.
Okay. What's wrong with Kate?
Nothing's wrong with it. I'm going to start updating information on it.
Okay.
Basically putting in end of coverage dates by HP.
I got it. I would like a frosty.
You'd like frosty?
I would love a frosty.
Small, medium, or large?
Large. Okay. Thank you. I'm just trying to see how I can make it bigger. There we go. So, okay, so she's teaching you guys. You guys are basically do the same thing she's doing. What age are the students that are teaching? Because I keep hearing like first grade, sixth grade. Is that just like a sample, or is this because they've had difficulty grading? Dropouts, handicaps, or like moving that.
Okay, every table should at least have one copy. Do we have that?
I just want to be sure because all I ever hear about it is not like here, so I'm like, yeah, like how they around the 56. I mean, I can understand if you have like a technical skill. Because I got it. You figure out where they okay. Now are all the students like even around the same about area, or you have like all different? So I was sitting there going like, for a second, I was sitting there, I was like,
I can understand how to teach it. I know how hard it is to teach basic concepts. But I can teach higher math to like I can explain why 2 plus 2 is 4 beyond 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've tried teaching like my brother's daughter how to do the comic book. And I look at them and I go, no offense, I grew up in this era, it's utter garbage. Because the way they phrase the system is like, you have 8 and 5, how do you get 10? It's like, either take 2 from 5 or 3 or 5 from 8. It's like, but then you still have 3 left. Basic numbers is 8 and 5, drill it into their head, they just know it's 13 and you're done. Yeah. But it's like, the only problem is that you only do that math, you can't take that. That's my only problem with like science and physics. You're not going to be able to sit there and like, okay, I got 2.68 mole for this, and 38 deciliters of that, and I got to add them together. It's like, no, you're going to have charts, you just understand basic numbers and stuff. But now I know what you guys are doing, so like, so I'm sitting there looking and like, what are you looking at? Speak like a 6 number. Okay. Yeah, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. I know what that means. Kind of like the old, like early 80s or late 80s, early 90s teachers where you had at most 2 teachers who did all like, the art, the history, the literature, and the other did math science. They do it all? I wouldn't know what that it's just the way they were saying it. Like, this and that. Like, I don't have a book, so I can't see it. Like, I'm sitting there, like, reading instructions and everything.
They don't want money. It's like a scam. They literally go up the problem, take a picture of each, and then it works so they can see how
No, I finally understand. I couldn't understand.
You can't take our
because I thought they were looking at it going like, okay, with my students understand this.
It talks about being subtle and implicit. Everything on that is spelled out. See, we got to get over it.
let's go back to your table. I want to call it.
So somebody can train, so the trainer can train. Let's see your paper. Well, I'll see that thing.
Okay, let's pull together. pull together and discuss this, and in 20 minutes I'll give you a break. Let's pull together and discuss this, and in 20 minutes I'll give you a break. Between these two.
Truth for hands, truth for hands.
Everybody jumped on our wagon. After we begged and pleaded to be
We have a survey software. I know we get Survey Monkey, but is that one that's part of this that can, like the free version of Survey Monkey?
Unfortunately, that's not the part of IT that's on.
It's all right. I love the colors.
what they're using by SRA, decoding strategy.
Actually,
Look at that. I was just telling you about that SRA. I was telling I've been telling him about our SRA reading hubs. Hey, like your shirt there.
thank you. Really? It's legal. I'm just saying.
It ain't gonna be there much longer. I'm talking about the house.
Huh?
I'm talking about the house, not that. What about Jeremy?
Okay, guys, let's get together.
It says that the warranty
Order in the court.
Sit down.
Look at
Naomi.
Hello?
Okay, we're ready. Go ahead.
We're ready. We're ready. I promise you we're ready.
Just pass the kid.
Okay. We all had a chance to read the excerpt from the Words We Live by, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, apologies for the rubrics not being in your packet or handed out to you. Again, that I made a note of that. That's another check as to what I need to do when I have to do this again to make sure that I'm on point. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Appreciate you. Okay, now let's look at the different categories and let's talk about the notes that we made and how complex this material is. So on the structure, we did that together. We said it was straightforward, done briefly, chronologically, and it was direct and clear. And we said that it was a very complex reading. Now the language, clarity, and conventions. So can I hear from each table, a little bit from each table as to what we have there? In your writing in the middle? Okay, she said the vocabulary was challenging and complex and subject specific. That was one of the notes. Somebody else?
What's your word?
Okay. She said he said some of the language is archaic because it refers to a historical document. Do we agree? Okay, this table? Anything?
Oh, you actually need to get to the... Oh!
Okay.
4?
Okay. This table?
We thought it was clear, explicit, and easy to understand.
She says clear, explicit, and easy to understand, and I think you are reading as an instructor. Would you think this would be clear for our students? What you think? And it does say it depends on who's reading it. Okay, my lady says an ASC high student that would be reading it to agree with you. Okay. This table, what do we have? As far as language clarity conventions. Okay, the vocabulary is fairly complex and sometimes unfamiliar. And they wouldn't use it in their everyday language. I agree. You agree? Right here? For your language clarity and conventions? What do we have? I know you didn't hear what she said, but she was saying that they felt it was moderately complex because she said that the conversations of sovereignty and suffrage were words that may have been unfamiliar, but not so much that it would cause a problem in the comprehension. Okay. Okay, so overall, what would be the complexity level for this one, would you say? It's a split between moderately and very. Is that what I'm hearing? The actual answer would be moderately. No. You're that smart student. That's what you are. I know that's what it is. You study all the time. Okay, knowledge demands. Knowledge demands. Let's hear from you. This table, what do we have for knowledge demands?
Understanding of government.
Okay, an understanding of government. Right here.
Recall of historical facts.
Recall of historical facts.
There were references to the Constitutional Convention and to things like the food, the purchase of college and all that. So
Some background knowledge would be needed. Okay. Exactly. Anybody else?
Social groups, cultural groups were mentioned, and the progress of civil rights and citizenry. So there's some knowledge there that needs to be done, both historically and socially.
Gotcha. Well, what'd you say right here, baby? Specific content knowledge. Okay. What about the purpose? Oh, wait. Let's go back. Under knowledge demands, what's the complexity level there? Moderately. Very good. Very good. Miss Rita is going to be doing our next training session. Miss Rita. Okay, now let's look at, hello? Let's look at purpose. Let me hear from a couple of tables here. What do we have for purpose?
I'm not going to tell you our
Purpose is implied and easily what? Easy to identify, okay? Y'all please listen up because we're learning from each other. Please. Thank you. I know everybody is here. Okay. Purpose here? This purpose?
We said pretty much the same thing that she said, that the purpose of this piece was for the students to identify who is the reader. Okay.
Is that what you all said? What'd you say? The purpose of the reading.
What'd you say?
Okay, who am I going to?
Did you have something? Yeah.
Oh, no, we were talking. Thank you.
Oh, you're with me. Okay.
Let's go here.
I don't need like, I thought, as far as the purpose, I thought the purpose was very complex.
We do need the mic microphone back here. We can't hear.
We can't hear it.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I said that I think that the purpose was very complex, if not exceedingly complex. And the reason I say that is because it tied together several ethnic groups as well as several amendments, as well as the notions of exactly who the people were in relation to the preamble of the Constitution. So in that regard, you're talking about huge concepts to be digested in a very small, portion of reading. So that's what I meant.
I think some of the context was abstract. Some of the context was more on an abstract level. Our students don't have a knowledge of government. And so some of this was really theoretically kind of over their heads. And so I thought it was very complex because it was too abstract in some situations, some areas.
I saw not only the purpose being to inform us as to who we the people really are, but also to let us understand, or to have the reader understand, that the Constitution, since it's entitled The Words We Live By, that the Constitution basically is flexible and it changes as times change. And so the we the people changed because the times, society changed. And what was one time slavery, now as he said, we're citizens, so we're all included in that. And if that is the case, I think it is exceedingly complex for ninth graders or a group of that age to really grasp the fact that the Constitution changes to reflect the changes in society.
Okay, since we had that great explanation from Kay, I think it was an excellent explanation. So, playing devil's advocate, how would you communicate that information in a form that the students would understand? Because Kay can do it, we know that. But how would you communicate, get all those issues out to those students? Just some ideas, not anything that there's a specific answer for, but what are some of the ideas that you could use to get that out to the students?
It's kind of like what you said.
Hold up, you gotta get in the mic.
Well, it's kind of like the way she understood it, because you could break this down and you could start talking, going from the beginning, we the people, and then you could kind of do like a little chart and say, okay, these were the people at this date or this year, but this year you had different people, this year you had different people.
So you give her a prize back, Kay.
So you know what I'm saying? You can break it down to years and say, do you see how the people changed as the years progressed and as we go on to a new century?
And that was the intent of me asking the question, because and I've said this to all the tables that I've gone around to, what I'm trying to get you to see, or for me, is to see it on the ground floor, like what's happening on the ground floor. And Kay can figure that out, but could the student, but if you put the charts and all those things, that helps you understand the complexity and all those other things. So that's what we're really trying to get to, is breaking down the standards to a place where it's usable in the classroom. So good job.
I was just going to say something similar by using a timeline to demonstrate what was taking place at a certain point in time, and then building on prior knowledge to get to where we are today. So it's the same thing.
And another thing that works well for our students is one of the things that they all do very well is television media. So I make the comparison of when I was a kid, and I often use the example that I never saw a man and a woman in the bed together on television. Not in I Love Lucy, nothing. And so today when you watch television, that's the least, that's all you hope to see, is them in the bed together. And so I use that as an example because they can all identify with television, with the media, and I talk about how that reflects the changes in society. So then you can take that and make an analogy to the Constitution as well.
And what I was going to say was, I don't have an example, but I think everybody, when they rated it, they were saying very complex or exceedingly complex, but I disagree with my table. Only because I said even though we went through all the other categories, the purpose is clearly defined. It says the first 3 words of the Constitution are the most important. And even if you don't know all the other stuff, it goes back and says, basically, eventually, that all these people were included in the definition, we are the people. So you kind of, even if you don't have a grasp on that for the purpose, it's not hard to understand that. So I think that is why it's moderately complex versus, exceedingly, because that is clear. The other words can distract you from what the purpose is, but it kind of just tells you that if they get caught up in those other things, then that may throw them off. So maybe in teaching them that most of the time the purpose is kind of clearly defined right there, but other words that you don't see or you're unfamiliar with may lead you to a direction that gets you off of what it actually is. So helping them to stay on target may be something that we can do.
And in the facilitator's guide, it says the purpose of this text is simple and direct. It said, though the course of history behind answering the question is complex and multifaceted, those facets, however, are presented in a direct fashion and directly linked to the central focus of the source of sovereignty. So, but it still was moderately complex. Okay? With that being said, we are going to take a break.
With all the directors, Kay would like for all the directors to stay in for a few minutes so everybody else